You can't have liberty without participation. You can't have liberty if you just sit going to work and you don't pay attention to what those quote unquote politicians are doing because they represent you. And if they are misrepresenting you and you don't stop them and say, no, 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 that's not what I want, either through your vote or through a letter or through a phone call or through a text to their offices, you are not participating. Therefore, democracy will die at the footstep of liberty because you, the individual, it's your domain. You are basically a lord.
Hello, YouTube. Welcome. We are HDN. I'm here with Jacques Jonasant, the owner, the founder, the mastermind behind it all. And we would be remiss if we would not introduce something that happened in the world today that he'd like me to talk about, which is that the World Health Organization has declared a smallpox or M-Pox outbreak.
Yeah.
And a worldwide emergency, is that right?
Yes, global. Yeah.
Global emergency. And the next topic that we're going to get into is civic engagement. And as HDN, part of what we'd like to do is to bring civic engagement to the masses and to teach people about their duties as citizens and to talk about things that perhaps we don't always learn about that have to do with our government and the way things operate. And one of the primary texts for this curriculum that we're going to use here, so to speak, is Washington's farewell address. Here's the quote. Hence, likewise, they will avoid the necessity of those overgrown military establishments, which under any form of government are inauspicious to liberty, and which are to be regarded as particularly hostile to republican liberty. In this sense it is that your union ought to be considered as a main prop of your liberty, and that the love of one ought to endear you to the preservation of the other.
You know, the American Constitution is in part, or emanate in part, the conceptual model from some great philosophers and liberty-loving people in Europe. As the French Revolution proved, they were about liberty, equality, fraternity. And it seems like George Washington understood those things, those principles, very, very well. And he's saying you can't have liberty without participation. You can't have liberty if you just sit going to work and you don't pay attention to what those quote unquote politicians are doing because they represent you. And if they are misrepresenting you and you don't stop them and say, no, 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 that's not what I want, either through your vote or through a letter or through a phone call or through a text to their offices, you are not participating. Therefore, democracy will die at the footstep of liberty because you, the individual, it's your domain. You are basically a lord. Sovereignty is not because the United States have land. The United States is a sovereign nation because the American citizen is a sovereign. And the human being is a sovereign. It is because you've got those human beings that have sovereignty that decide, okay, we're going to take our sovereignty, which is God-given to us as human beings, and we're going to put it into our society. We're going to participate in that society. And if you eject yourself out of that daily, weekly, monthly, minute by minute participation, your liberty will die, will go away.
All right, let's try this one. One of the expedients of party to acquire influence within particular districts is to misrepresent the opinions and aims of other districts.
He saw what's happening today. George Washington is talking about what political parties are doing today. They convince the Congress to pass laws for them, to benefit them.
And this is even talking about the geographical standpoint of things.
Let's
where,
go there.
Where we were talking about in the car about the swing states and how it seems we've all sort of accepted that there are certain states that vote this way and then there's no other way about it, and then these are the swing states, and we have to allow the candidates to focus on those ones so that they can gain those contested ground, because everywhere else is not contested. Just here in these districts.
We've got this in the bag. We got those in the bags. So let's go ahead and do this, and talk to those that are on the fence, so to speak, and see if we can convince them to join us. And they are spending billions of dollars to do it. Billions of dollars. And when you ask yourself, who is paying for those billions of dollars in advertising and in campaign things? And you realize, well, if it is not me, the common people, someone is doing that, what do they want in return? It's a give and take.
It's a good question. It comes up later in his address. I want to ask this, though. Do you think it's even possible that we could get to a point where we could consider every state a swing state? Do we think we could even get to a point where we had such choreographed and educated citizens and choreographed districts so that people could have a real contest, so to speak?
The intent of elections is always to say the majority vote, right? So now let's talk about how many voters exist in the United States of America. And if the majority of the voters gonna decide, is it not implicit that every voter should go vote and should have the capacity and the ability to vote, so that we get, in fact, when we do say we have a majority, it's not a plurality, it's a majority. There's a difference. If I am just about, 10 voters voted for me and 7 voted for you, so I win. What question do we have to ask ourselves if we want a very vibrant democracy, which is to say a democratic republic that is fully functional based on the constitutional tenets of these United States, as an example? We gotta say every person that has the age to vote gotta get to understand what they are voting about. And if they don't know even anything about the US Constitution and they're not participating in everything that they need to participate in, if you only have 20 to 30% of the American voter voting in elections, what do you have? You have maybe 1/3 deciding for the rest of the country. We need to understand as US citizens, as a nation, that every single person, every voter has a responsibility to go vote. And if they don't, they are losing the battle of the republic.
On that note, let's try this quote from the Farewell Address of Washington. The very idea of the power and the right of the people to establish government presupposes the duty of every individual to obey the established government.
Yes. Because what you're doing is you're saying, I am a sovereign. And as a sovereign, I have something that I want to do. And you said, hey, this friend, this other friends, this neighbor, my kids, and so on. And you say, hey, what do you think of this idea? And we go vote on it. But if I am misinformed, or I misinterpret the facts, and I don't see that there's a cordial civil discussion that has to take place, we're gonna lose the republic. You can't have democracy without civic education, civic instructions, and civic engagement. And it cannot be civic engagement from a political party, because that political party is going to try to bend whatever civic engagement that they're giving you to the notion and what is important to that political party. In fact, they are dividing the nation as opposed to building the union.
On that note, let's finish up with this last quote, and I'll get your comment on it after. They serve to organize faction, to give it an artificial and extraordinary force, to put in the place of the delegated will of the nation the will of the party. Often a small but artful and enterprising minority of the community, and, according to the alternate triumphs of different parties, to make the public administration the mirror of the ill-concerted and incongruous projects of the faction, rather than the organ of a consistent and wholesome plan digested by common councils and modified by mutual interests.
Yeah. In essence, it's all about them. They make you think it's about the country, but it's about the way they view the country. What people must understand, the United States of America has a constitution. It's like to say, that's your birth certificate. It's like to say, that's your philosophical tenet. So you have to read your constitution, and you have to look at every aspect of it and make sure that whomever is in power politically is in office. They don't have power over you. They work for you. You pay their compensation. You pay their salary. They work for you. They are your employees. And if they are the one dictating to you, the American people, what to do and whatever decision they make, you're not even aware, you've got a problem. And it would be time for the United States to have a way for Congress in every state, for all the mayors to digitize their activities. Put it for the public to know what you're doing. If you have an office, you have a meeting, you have whatever it is, the public needs to know in your district. And if you are a senator, the state of Utah needs to know. The state of Missouri needs to know. We need to create a system where it's this transparency is at the bottom of it because it's our republic. It's not theirs.
All right. That's a good one to end on. We'll stop there for now. Please stay with us. We've got more to come.